What's your favorite behind the scenes story or fun fact from a movie? In Fight Club, Edward Norton was supposed to throw a stage punch in the first fight outside the bar. The director pulled Norton aside and told him to actually hit Brad Pitt. The reaction from Pitt of getting hit is real, and if you look closely, Norton almost starts laughing from what he did. At the end of Die Hard, Alan Rickman gets dropped off the building. Rickman was told he would be dropped on the count of 3. The director quietly told the rest of the crew to drop him on the count of 2. The footage you see is of Rickman almost pee himself. In Interview with a Vampire, in the night park scene where Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise are walking, a trench was built for Pitt to walk in so that it would appear that the actors were the same height. Ouch, right in Tom's ego. When writing To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee based Atticus off her father. When the movie was being filmed, she was invited on set. During a scene with Gregory Peck playing Atticus, she broke down in tears. When Gregory asked why, it was because he reminded her so much of her father. She then gave him a pocket watch that had belonged to her father. He wore that pocket watch to the Oscars that year. Gregory Peck, true gentleman. In the Harry Potter series, Tom Felton, Draco Malfoy, had to have his robe pocket sewn shut, because otherwise he would have been sneaking food on set. On a related note, Dan Radcliffe had a habit of drumming with his wand, and broke upwards of 10 wands on set. The scene in Tropic Thunder where Danny McBride set off the big explosion without the cameras running was inspired by a similar incident that occurred during the filming of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The bridge scene, where Clint Eastwood and Eli Wallach have to blow up a bridge in order to send a Civil War battle elsewhere, was filmed using a bridge that was built and rigged with dynamite by the Spanish army. The captain in charge of these men was given the honor of pushing the button, and while he was waiting for his signal, he saw Sergio Leone waving and shouting at one of his cameramen, and misinterpreted that as his cue. Fortunately, no one was injured by the premature explosion, and the army captain felt so bad that they rebuilt the bridge free of charge. One of my favorites is related to the Blues Brothers. One night, while filming out in the countryside, John Belushi went missing. Dan Aykroyd went out to look for him. Aykroyd walked to a nearby house and knocked on the door. A man opened the door, and before Aykroyd could say anything, the man smiled and said, "You're looking for John Belushi, aren't you?" Aykroyd walked into the house to see Belushi sleeping on a couch. The man explained that Belushi had invited himself in, asked for a sandwich and a glass of milk, then crashed on the couch. After that, Aykroyd dubbed Belushi as America's guest. The bank heist and subsequent escape scene from Heat is so good and realistic that it is used as a training video for armed forces as to how to withdraw under enemy fire. Michael Mann goes to great lengths to show proper gun usage and handling in movies. Trigger discipline, proper loading. I seem to remember that Colin Farrell would be able to reload as fast as the fastest guys in law enforcement. We use it for moving under fire also. Freaking awesome. When filming Singing in the Rain, Gene Kelly would yell and curse at Debbie Reynolds because she would mess up the dance scenes and cause filming to go longer. It was one of her first movies and she was very young. One day, he got so frustrated, he insulted her dancing, and she ran off set, hid under a piano and cried. Someone roaming around MGM found her, and when she told him that she was having trouble with her dance steps, he helped her out with them. The guy who helped her was Fred Astaire. Whoa, Gene Kelly sounds like a massive jerk. The actors of Fred and George in Harry Potter would swap places occasionally during the filming process, and the rest of the crew wouldn't realize it. In Apollo 13, when Tom Hanks, playing astronaut Jim Lovell, steps off the boat, he is saluted by a Navy admiral. That Navy admiral is the real Jim Lovell. Navy captain. Lovell was offered a part as admiral, but he said that he retired a captain, and that's what he would play. The actors of Saving Private Ryan were put through basic training before filming, except Matt Damon, so that the other actors would build some sort of unconscious resentment towards his character. Sean Connery beat up a gangster on the set of one of his films. From Wikipedia, in 1958 he had a major role in the melodrama Another Time, Another Place. 1958, as a British reporter named Mark Trevor, caught in a love affair opposite Lana Turner and Barry Sullivan. During filming, star Lana Turner's possessive gangster boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato, who was visiting from Los Angeles, believed she was having an affair with Connery. He stormed onto the set and pointed a gun at Connery, only to have Connery disarm him and knock him flat on his back. Stompanato was banned from the set. Connery later recounted that he had to lie low for a while after receiving threats from men linked to Stompanato's boss, Mickey Cohen. Stompanato was later stabbed to death by 14-year-old Cheryl Crane, only daughter of Lana Turner. During breaks in filming of Planet of the Apes, 1968, actors made up as different ape species tended to hang out together. Gorillas with gorillas, orangutans with orangutans, chimps with chimps. It wasn't required, it just naturally happened. I would guess they got familiar during makeup, and socialized based on that. Mark Hamill was incredibly lonely during the filming of The Empire Strikes Back. He has just a handful of mostly brief scenes with other actual human actors. In fact, I think you can count them pretty easily. 1. Recovering from the Wampa attack on Hoth. 2. The attack on the Etat Walkers. Barely counts. He had a gunner behind him. Briefly. 3. The fight with Vader on Bespin. 4. Recovering post-fight on the rebel ship with Leia and the droids. Virtually every other scene he has in that movie he was interacting with either puppets, Yoda, R2-D2, people in full body suits, Wampa, or special effects, Spirit of Ben Kenobi. He related that during the Dagobah scenes, he would be on the large swamp set and Frank Oz was obviously below him controlling Yoda. Whenever they took a break, Frank would remove himself from Yoda and the puppet would unceremoniously slump over, dead looking. The crew also somehow seemed to vanish almost immediately, so he was left in the middle of this huge swamp set all by himself, feeling forgotten. Every time I watch Empire now, I think about poor lonely Mark Hamill. I heard Julia Roberts say the same thing as Tinker Bell in Hook. The entire time she was in front of a green screen and never got to interact with any of the other actors. Heath Ledger as the Joker in The Dark Knight, clapping ominously at Commissioner Gordon's newest promotion wasn't scripted. Marvelous bit of improv acting that helps make the film. Someone posted a fun link months ago showing the internet's horrified reaction to Heath being casted as the Joker. It's hilarious. During the boat scene in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you know, the one where spiders crawl on people's faces, a few of the cast members genuinely got scared because they thought Gene Wilder had gone insane. Also, in the scene where they see the big candy room for the first time, the kids have a genuine look of amazement. They weren't allowed to see the set until they filmed that day. In Fight Club, in the scene when the Project Mayhem men are trying to pick fights with random people, and the guy at the car wash keeps spraying the priest with the hose, the camera shakes because the cameraman couldn't stop himself from laughing. Also, when Mueller says I haven't been fricked like that since grade school, this line was changed from the original I want to have your abortion because execs found the line too dark. They were so angry when they heard the rewrite after the release, they wished they kept the original. Related, Helena Bonham Carter, Marla, didn't understand what grade school was. She thought it meant university, not elementary school. In The Devil Wears Prada, the first day on set, Meryl Streep told Anne Hathaway you're wonderful and I love you, but this is the last time I'm going to be nice to you until we're done here to keep up the cold boss from heck demeanor of Miranda Priestley, Meryl's character. From Fight Club, regarding their beating the crap out of the VW Beetle, during rehearsals, Brad Pitt and Edward Norton found out that they both hated the new Volkswagen Beetle with a passion, and for the scene where Tyler and the narrator are hitting cars with baseball bats, Pitt and Norton insisted that one of the cars be a Beetle. As Norton explains on the DVD commentary, he hates the car because the Beetle was one of the primary symbols of 60s youth culture and freedom. However, the youth of the 60s had become the corporate bosses of the 90s, and had repackaged the symbol of their own youth, selling it to the youth of another generation as if it didn't mean anything. Both Norton and Pitt felt that this kind of corporate selling out was exactly what the film was railing against, hence the inclusion of the car. It's a perfect example of the baby boomer generation marketing its youth culture to us, as if our happiness is going to come by buying the symbol of their youth movement, even with a little flower holder in the plastic molding. It's appalling to me. I hate it. However, Pitt is quoted on the DVD commentary as saying he has since had a change of heart about the new Beetle. That they were pee drunk when they were hitting golf balls off the roof into windows while filming. God, I love that movie. When they were getting ready to film Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro would take Jodie Foster out to dinner to get acquainted. Sometimes they wouldn't even talk, but De Niro thought it was important that they were comfortable being around each other. I also just realized that Jodie Foster was only 12 when they shot that film. Zack and Miri Make a Porno is basically the story of how Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier made Clerks. Kevin Smith is Zack and Scott Mosier is Miri. They decide they want to make a porno movie. End up filming at the coffee shop, Quick Stop, where they work. Ends up being a huge success. Changes their lives forever. Lord of the Rings is full of stuff like this. The aforementioned Aragorn dagger deflection and toe-breaking helmet kick are some of the more well-known. While on set, the actors who played the orcs and various evil creatures weren't allowed to fraternize with the rest of the cast and slept out in tents and stuff to try and make them be meaner on camera. Well, Viggo said to heck with that and camped out with the orcs. The scene at the end of Return of the King where Sam is kissing Rosie at their wedding. Sam had a hard time looking really happy afterwards because his real life wife was on set. Viggo grabbed Billy Boyd, Pippin, because he wanted to have some friendly faces for him to look at when he turns to the camera to look happy. Well, it still wasn't working. So when he turned again, Viggo grabbed Billy and kissed him right on the mouth. Sam turned and saw them full on kissing, and gave the great smile you see in the film. Also, all the 9 members of the Fellowship got tattoos, I believe of the number 9. Also, all the 9 members of the Fellowship got tattoos, I believe of the number 9. All except John Rhys Davis. He didn't want to get it done, so his stunt double had the tattoo done instead. Not really mind-blowing, but I thought it was funny. When they filmed parts of The Dark Knight in the neighborhood where I was living in Chicago at the time, they put flyers up on all the nearby buildings to announce that they would be filming on certain dates. They used an alias for the name of the movie so they wouldn't attract unwanted attention. The alias was Rory's First Kiss. When filming Groundhog Day, Bill Murray was asked to hire an assistant to act as a buffer between him and the studio. He deliberately hired a deaf mute who could only communicate in Native American Sign Language. Sean Bean climbed mountains in full Borama gear because he was afraid of helicopters so much. The cast and crew would often see him on the way up and down. LOTR has a lot of great behind the scenes stories. And Viggo Mortensen walked with him because he wanted to be authentically travel worn. Paper Street, the street Tyler Durden's house is on, in Fight Club doesn't exist. Paper streets are streets that city planners lay out but never develop. In Fight Club the house is on Paper Street due to the nature of Tyler Durden. To be more precise, map makers used to put fake streets, even whole towns sometimes, on maps. This was so if they found another map with that fake street on, they'd know someone had copied their map. There's an R2-D2 action figure attached to the bottom of the alien ship in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Also, R2 and C-3PO can be seen as hieroglyphics in the Well of Souls scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. R2-D2 can also be seen flying by in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek when the Enterprise first exits warp speed. I'll see if I can pull up the screenshot. I found out that throughout the entire Harry Potter movie series, J.K. Rowling had confided in Alan Rickman that Snape was madly in love with Lily Potter. Alan Rickman was the only person she revealed this information to, in order for Alan Rickman to portray Snape's treatment of Harry genuinely. Arnold Schwarzenegger's commentary on Total Recall. It's a semi-illiterate recount on the movie with focus on how nice some of the actors' boobs were looking. It's not just Schwarzenegger, it's Paul Verhoeven too. The Austrian and Dutch accents mixed together are amazing. It's the greatest DVD commentary ever made. The whole time, Verhoeven is like, describing why they did this, or that, and Schwarzy is like, oh yeah, I hit him really hard in the face and he fell down, haha, yes. David Prowse, who was physically Darth Vader but not his voice, only found out that he was playing Luke's father after the release of Empire Strikes Back. He had been given the line was no, Obi-Wan killed your father. Even Mark Hamill only found out a few minutes before shooting to try and keep the spoiler as secret as possible. And as a child, I built C-3PO. In The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy and the Scarecrow are in the forest where they find the Tin Man, there is a peacock walking around behind them. This wasn't scripted, and the bird had escaped from a different set and just happened to walk into the shot. I like this story from Warwick Davis when asked what Val Kilmer was like filming Willow. During the shooting of Willow, I found Val to be a very helpful chapter. He has a great sense of humor and like to shock. A good example of this occurred when we were about to fly off to New Zealand. I was seated in first class, posing while wearing a pair of fake Ray-Ban sunglasses. When Val boarded the plane, he snatched the glasses off my face and snapped them in two. Great, I thought. There goes my cool image. After gaining much amusement from my shocked reaction, Val produced 2 pairs of real Ray-Bans and gave them to me with the words, "These are much cooler." Val Kilmer is a strange man. Awesome, but strange. This is a personal one. I worked on the movie Little Black Book. Holly Hunter was one of the co-stars. During the shoot, the studio rented her a house, because she didn't have one in LA at the time, and got her an assistant that she said she really didn't need, Rebecca. A few weeks into shooting in LA, Rebecca is in the production office hanging out. I asked her what it was like working for Holly and this is what she told me. So it's Holly's first night in LA for the flick. Late that night, Rebecca gets a frantic call from Holly. Apparently, there is no bed in the house. Her rental house has no bed. She refuses to sleep on a couch and don't even suggest getting a hotel room. She orders Rebecca to find a bed immediately. It's like 10 p.m. on a weeknight. Rebecca is out with friends and Academy Award-winning actress Holly Hunter is yelling at her to get her a bed. Freaking out, not sure what to do. She's positive that she's going to get fired when Holly simply says, "Rebecca, calm down. I'm just freaking with you. Have a good night," and hangs up. TLDR. Holly Hunter fricks with her assistant. In the 5th Harry Potter movie, Helena Bonham Carter burst Matthew Lewis's, Neville's, eardrum with her wand while she was holding him in the Ministry. The scene where Hermione takes the Polyjuice potion to become Helena Bonham Carter's character to get into her vault in the bank, they had Helena do the scene and then Hermione mimic her, then had Helena mimic her mimicking herself. In the movie Alien there was a line in the background where Hudson said, right, somebody said alien. She thought they said illegal alien and signed up. That was an inside joke. Vasquez's character in real life signed up for the audition thinking this was a part in a movie about illegal aliens. From IMDb, looking for a way to create the character of Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale stumbled onto a Tom Cruise appearance on David Letterman. According to American Psycho director Mary Harron, Bale saw in Cruise this very intense friendliness with nothing behind the eyes and Bale subsequently based the character of Bateman on that. That's so freaking awesome. In the office during Michael's last undies when everyone starts singing the 9,986,000 minutes song and he tears up, those are actually real tears. He had no idea they were going to do that. It was kind of their way of saying goodbye. Another one from The Office and the episode where Michael kisses Oscar. The kiss was not scripted. The awkward tension that leads up to the kiss is real. While looking for a tattered coat for the character playing the wizard in The Wizard of Oz, a costume assistant bought one from a second-hand store. When the actor put the coat on, he turned the pocket inside out. Written in the pocket was the name L. Frank Baum, who is the author of The Wizard of Oz books. Baum's widow later identified the coat as actually having belonged to her husband. When Gandalf accidentally hit the roof with his head at Bag's End is a good one. It wasn't planned, but Peter liked it so they used it in the movie. James Earl Jones and Madge Sinclair play Mufasa and Cerebi in The Lion King. James Earl Jones and Madge Sinclair play King Jaffe Joffer and Queen Aeolian in Coming to America. They've played rulers of African kingdoms together in Twice. Speaking of Coming to America, I live down the street from the restaurant they used for McDowell's. It's currently a Wendy's. IG-88, one of the bounty hunters that Jabba the Hutt employs, is a robot. His head is made from one of the bar taps from the Mos Eisley Cantina. In Withnail and I, Richard E. Grant's character becomes very desperate for alcohol and swigs from a bottle of lighter fluid before having a coughing fit and dramatic reaction. The bottle was meant to be full of water, but the crew replaced it with vinegar, hence his reaction. Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman from the film The Marathon Man. Hoffman is a famous method actor and supposedly stayed up for a few nights in a row to look really bedraggled when they shot the scene. Anyway, he apparently looked like crap and Olivier asked him about it. Hoffman explained the Lee Strasberg method to Sir Olivier. Olivier looks Hoffman up and down and said, "Next time, try acting, dear boy." I think in Olivier's Wikipedia page it talks about the actor's hatred and disdain for method acting. Essentially, he thought it was lazy and ineffective and had no use for people who relied on it. In LOTR The Two Towers, when Aragorn kicks the helmet in the scene with the burning pile of orcs and Uruk-hai, he actually broke 2 toes, so that scream was more than just acting. Same when Boromir got hit with all those arrows. He's dead now. Kevin Spacey's name was intentionally omitted from the opening credits of Seven because the director wanted his appearance to be a shock to the viewer. Back in the 90s, NYC had a $2 theater. Sometimes we'd just stay and see a second flick. I saw The Usual Suspects and saw 7N as a double feature complete Spacey mind frick. I have to. 1. In the movie There's Something About Mary, Lee Evans is one of the men fighting for Mary. In the movie he is American but portraying a British architect to get with her. If I remember correctly, the funny behind the scenes story of this is Lee Evans is British and has to portray an American accent like Hugh Laurie for the series House, MD. However, when he talks to Mary over the phone as the British architect, the fans of the movie claimed it was one of the worst British accents they have ever heard and he should not have had the part. He got made fun of for speaking in his regular accent and was called fake. Hilarious. 2. The other is Michael Chiklis. The man who played Thing from Fantastic Four did not need his voice modified for the movie. That is all him, and I think it is cool he can morph it in such a way. I've heard of many examples like your number one. I think Americans are so used to fake British accents by our actors that we don't know what the real ones sound like, because there is no one British accent. It's silly, but one of my favorite movies is Young Frankenstein. I found out that the actor playing Igor, Marty Feldman RIP, would purposely move the hump on his back before certain scenes to mess with Gene Wilder and the other actors. The reactions to his hump being in different places were mostly real and improvised. D. In Deliverance, Burt Reynolds actually did his own stunt for the going over the waterfall scene after the canoe capsizes. They originally used a cloth dummy, which director John Boorman hated and said it looked like a dummy going over a waterfall. Burt broke his coccyx during the stunt. While he was recuperating, he asked the director, "How did it look?" John Boorman replied, "Like a dummy going over a waterfall." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.